The Franklin County Sheriff says his investigators have solved the case of the missing bourbon, but don't expect the bourbon buzz to die down anytime soon.
Clearing skies and the potential for frost on the way heading into the overnight. We've got the green thumb alert straight ahead.
And new information in the case of a dog that died after being dragged in southern Kentucky. How the pet's owner says it ended up being dragged behind a truck.
Tracking, alerting, protecting. WKYT News starts now with breaking news.
Good afternoon. Investigators are on the scene of a deadly crash right now in Scott County involving a train. It happened just about an hour ago on Rogers Gap Road off US 25 north of the Toyota plant. The Scott County Fire Department tells us a dump truck and train collided. It's at a private crossing on a farm. The coroner is at the scene, and investigators have not released any information yet about the person who died or if anyone else was injured. We have a crew at the scene in Scott County, and we'll bring you more information as we get it on air and on WKYT.com. Much colder air is moving into Kentucky, so cold it could lead to frost. Right now, temperatures are in the 50s, and we're getting a break from the rain. This is a live look at downtown Lexington from the Harold Leader building. A big chill is coming. We're talking lows in the 30s. Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey is tracking it in the First Alert Weather Center. But Chris, it's a nice afternoon right now.
Yeah, it really looks the part as you're looking through the window. Then all of a sudden you step outside and you understand that there is a definite chill in the air with those temperatures that are colder than normal and the gusty winds adding an extra chill to the air. Live sky cam here on the east side of town, looking out across Winchester Road toward Hamburg Pavilion. Mostly sunny skies that are out there. That temperature just getting out of the 50s, tickling 60 degrees. Winds are still gusting up close to 30 miles per hour. Visibility is way up there as skies continue to clear. But look to the north. This is where the air is coming from. Look how chilly this is across parts of Illinois, Ohio, Indiana. You've got readings in the 30s right now in the northern parts of Indiana and Ohio. That's some of the cold air that continues to funnel its way on in from northwest to southeast across the Bluegrass State. Now, behind that front that blasted through here early this morning with some thunder and lightning for an early morning wake-up call. How about that? We're getting it on nothing showing up on Live First Alert Defender. So clean skies showing up with that big area of low pressure still pinwheeling here into the Great Lakes where it's snowing into the New England states and parts of the Great Lakes. Weather headlines, green thumb alert tonight. Temperatures dropping close to the freezing mark, if not a little below. Take care of the tender plants and vegetation. Everything is in full bloom out there. Definitely want to take care of all the plants that, well, you don't want to get a little nip in the bud. Storms, though, for the weekend, Jennifer, we'll track those when I come back here in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Chris. It's a case that's grabbed international headlines. More than $100,000 worth of bourbon stolen from Buffalo Trace and Wild Turkey distilleries. The Franklin County Sheriff now says 5 of the 9 people indicted in the bourbon heist have surrendered. WKYT's Sean Moody has reaction from a bourbon industry expert. It's our top story at 4.
Well, hardcore bourbon fans have been watching this case very closely ever since the Franklin County Sheriff announced there was more than $25,000 worth of bourbon missing from here at Buffalo Trace Distillery. Yesterday, investigators said they'd cracked the case, but that buzz around the bourbon is likely to keep going. Pappy Van Winkle bourbon was already hard to find before this case blew up. Bourbon enthusiasts say the industry has been growing a lot faster over the past couple of years. When the sheriff announced that Pappy was missing, it made headlines across the world. Yesterday, the sheriff said his investigators had recovered more than $100,000 worth of bourbon stolen from Buffalo Trace as well as Wild Turkey Distillery. He said the alleged thefts had been going on since 2008. A Franklin County grand jury indicted 9 people on a charge of engaging in organized crime. The sheriff said 3 of those people worked either at Buffalo Trace or Wild Turkey.
I'm not surprised that it was an inside job. It's not quite like robbing a bank, but it's kind of like robbing a bank.
The sheriff said he started getting calls from other people around the state this morning. He still believes there are several other barrels of bourbon out there that are unaccounted for. He says if anyone out there thinks they may have bought some bourbon related to this case, they should give his office a call. In Frankfort, Sean Moody, WKYT.
The sheriff says the bourbon will be preserved until the case goes to trial. After that, the bourbon inside the barrels will likely be destroyed. They hope to save that Pappy Van Winkle that's in sealed bottles. We're learning new details today about a dog that died after being dragged yesterday in Laurel County. Homeward Bound says the dog's owner came forward saying a child accidentally left the dog tied to the bumper of his father's truck, and the father drove off without realizing the dog was there. By the time he found it, we're told the dog was badly injured. Believing it was dead, the owners say they left it in a ditch to pick up later.
Homeward Bound has a difficult time with the fact that the dog was left in the ditch. After finding out that the dog was behind the vehicle, instead of seeking veterinarian care and helping the dog, it was left in the ditch in agony.
The Laurel County Sheriff's Office is still investigating. Investigators tell us they've taken statements from everyone involved and will present the case to a grand jury. We're working on a number of other stories for WKYT starting at 4:30. Amber Philpott joins us from the newsroom with a look at some of the news in progress. Good afternoon, Amber.
Good afternoon to you, Jennifer. A Central Kentucky man accused of abusing a child is facing more charges today. John Wood of Madison County was arrested a week and a half ago, accused of abusing a 7-year-old girl. This morning, he was in court to answer to additional charges. Investigators say he also stole from his grandfather. They say the family realized the money was missing from their bank account in mid-April. According to deputies, the money was traced back to Wood. Coming up on WKYT News at 4:30, what investigators say Wood bought with that money and what happened during a court hearing today. If you've already planted flowers or vegetables this spring, you'll need to protect them from this cold snap. The saying goes you shouldn't plant until after Derby Day, but the Sunshine Grow Shop says gardening early is fine as long as you're aware of what you're planting. Covering plants that can't handle the cold is a must. We'll have some advice on how to protect your plants coming up for you on WKYT News at 6. That is a look at just some of the news in progress. Jennifer, back to you.
Thanks, Amber. Now to stories making headlines around the world at 4. Passengers and crew from an Australian cruise ship are back on solid land this afternoon after a harrowing day stranded at sea. Marley Hall has the latest.
The Carnival ship safely docked in Sydney Harbor after a long night at sea during a massive storm. Video taken from inside the Carnival Spirit shows powerful 30-foot waves slamming against the ship. Nearly 3,500 passengers and crew were on board.
Upstairs on the main deck, a lot of the glass had actually been pushed out and smashed all over the place. Chairs just turned like lollipops. It's just crazy.
The ship couldn't dock because the violent waters and winds up to 85 miles per hour forced officials to shut down the harbor.
The ship would have literally surfed into the harbour, and that's good for some people. That's not very good for me.
It's all part of a massive storm system pounding the Australian coast. 3 people have been killed since Monday, and emergency responders rescued nearly 50 people. No one was hurt aboard the Carnival ship. After some minor repairs, the ship is expected to sail again Wednesday evening.
We'll wait and see what the afternoon brings, and we'll decide whether we get on.
No doubt with some nervous passengers on board. Marley Hall, CBS News.
The storm has also left about 200,000 homes and businesses without electricity. A judge will decide if the man who shot President Ronald Reagan should be allowed to spend more time outside a mental hospital. A hearing started today in Washington, D.C. for John Hinckley, the man who shot President Reagan and his press secretary James Brady in 1981. Hinckley has lived at a mental hospital since a jury found him not guilty by reason of insanity. Right now, he spends 17 days a month at his mother's home in Virginia. His lawyer says the 60-year-old Hinckley is clinically ready to live outside the hospital. Prosecutors want more restrictions. President Obama is celebrating Earth Day today in the Florida Everglades. He's talking about global warming's effect on the U.S. economy and the nation's environmental treasures. The president also says rising sea levels are threatening drinking water and the Everglades' native species, putting South Florida tourism industry at risk. Customers will pay more at a popular restaurant chain. Details on Chipotle's price hike in WKYT Money Watch.
With Britain awaiting a royal baby, retailers are waiting to cash in. I'm Susan McGinnis in London with all the royal details.